Another way to be.
Is routine part of it, being a good songwriter?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I always look at it as ritual, which I mentioned in this book, and I did big time in the first book. To
Sounds a
find
lot nicer than routine.
does yeah, ritual sounds like okay, you are intentionally going to sit down and devote whatever time you've decided to songwriting, to these practices. But I think part of the reason of this book, or part of the thing about it, is that there are a lot of rituals you do that are not sitting and playing music that relate to music. For instance, I always loved going to libraries and bookstores and just wandering around looking for titles because I know those will play into songwriting. And that's like a day of, it's not songwriting, but it is.
Strange question, but I played a batch of songs to a couple of like musical friends, and they said like, "Oh, these are good," but like it's like you've got an album full of verses. And I was like, "What do you mean?"
Mhm.
Well, nothing's really jumping out. And I listened back, and once I got over my ego being shattered, they're probably right, But then I was like, well, I didn't think that at the time. How any ideas on how we might or how I might solve that?
Yeah, I think one big idea, and it was something Brian Adams mentioned this to me years ago, and
Well, he's okay, yeah. So
well, I mean, you look at the hits, whether you love them or not. I mean,
okay.
the guy writes undeniable singles,
Absolutely, like
And
great songs.
met him with Elliot just briefly, and we talked about writing songs a little bit. And he said, I write the chorus first. And I said, why? Because I don't always do that. And he said, because if you don't have a hit chorus, you don't have a hit song. If you don't have a hit song, what are you doing? It was like, that's a pretty black and white attitude. But I thought, if you're trying to write commercial music, yeah. The other part of that too, Bud, is that
That's a great answer. Thank you.
I didn't come up with this, but I mean, I've read it many times. They did a lot of surveys about how people take in music. And without a doubt, the people that are not like you and I, they're not musicians or writers, they learn the melody of the chorus first. They start humming the main part of the song. Then they might learn some of the lyrics to the chorus so they can sing along.
Okay,
And
cool.
your title better be in the chorus so I can call you up and go, hey Graham, I heard this song today. And you go, what is it? And I go, I don't know. I don't think the title was in the chorus. All I remember is, no, I want to be able to go, this is the name of it. This is the melody. This was in the chorus, you know, and then listeners learn the rest of the song, if they even ever do, you know. So the importance of a chorus is huge. Knowing whether you have it, I mean, I think that just takes a lot of writing. And then even then it's subjective. You can get a publisher or a friend, your wife or your best friend going, I love that. And no one else will, maybe, or the opposite. But I think one way around that is starting with a chorus and saying, do I have a great chorus first? And if I do, I'm going to fill in the blanks. Pick something completely out of your normal writing zone. Maybe find some jazz. Miles Davis will do. The more often you let these other forms of music into your world, the more interesting and informed your songs become. The action that day is listen. I said, hard to pick one, but let's go with 24 Hank Williams' greatest hits. So that time I was listening to all sorts of music, like Arabian type melodies and stuff. And I left my house, went to the grocery, and I was walking around, found myself going da 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 da, really like, foreign-ish melody. And I thought, did I steal this or did I just hear it? What is this, And again, years ago, so I call my home phone and leave a message. This just came to me. I love this. And it's from hearing odd melodies for a while, I think. And sent it to Elliot. I think they finished the song like in a day. Just went right at it. Billie Piper was there. Elliot called and he's like, job done. And the thing, he goes, then it's the first single, and then it hit #1 on the day of release.
Yeah. Is there any common mistakes that you see songwriters make or potential songwriters make?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them, and I've made them all too. sometimes songwriters get too hung up on rules, things they've heard or read. God forbid I've said anything in a book or something that somebody goes, oh, there's a rule, I got to do that. If you do it by the book, it's just not going to be original. So sometimes I see songwriters that are following trends and things so closely that there's none of them in it, and you have to put yourself in it at some point. So maybe that's the biggest one.
Sorry to cut in. You said at the start it's kind of, you can be too formulaic almost sometimes, and it can be a restrictor, right?
And that's what we'd all been doing off and on, and interestingly enough, like my Taylor Dane Tina story, sometimes you write those songs and somebody else cuts them. But on this particular day, we said, we got 2 days to write. Let's get in a room together. Don't try to write any briefs. We're not writing for anybody, to any command, nothing. Let's see what comes out. See if we can blow each other away. And we did. I had a Celtic loop, that doo-doom, doo-doom, the loop that ended up really being on the song finally, on Tina's version.
It all should be. I will be dancing. Now when I lay me down to sleep, I will be dancing in my dreams, seeing the way it all should be. I will be dancing.
Tina hears it and loses her mind. Just said, this is exactly where I want to go. This is it. I love it. And she was actually on Oprah Winfrey, like later on, telling the story, and I was dying. She said, I just heard this song and said, this is going to start my album. This is a new direction. I have to do it. And the album sold about 6 million. I would have told myself to network more, because I think all of us, like when we're creative folks, it's kind of a solitary thing to do a lot, to write, be in your own head. And it's easy to think, I don't want to go schmooze. I don't want to go to party. I don't want to put myself in front of somebody's face and go, look at me, listen to me. Some of the writers I know, I won't name any names, but there are a lot of writers that are very successful that are better networkers than they are writers. But they network great, and they find co-writers, and they really work it. I was never comfortable doing that. I did it just to the degree of that I was comfortable with. Book, I wrote a chapter called Organic Networking. That to me is the networking that paid off. And that just happened. But I kept track of it. Like if you and I were friends and we wrote together or something, I wouldn't blow you off or have you blow me off. I kind of keep in mind what we did, and maybe down the road that comes into play in a different way. And to me, that's organic. You meet people, you make them part of your network, and you just stay up with them, and that pays off too. It's just a different way of networking.
Ride the tide, swim